Hello everyone, I hope you're well and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to be learning how to make a strapless bodice. If you're new to my channel, you're welcome, and on this channel I upload sewing tutorials and pattern drafting every week. Kindly subscribe and don't forget to put on the notification bell so you get notified anytime I upload a new video. So to get started, we're going to be needing our dartless basic bodice. I have a tutorial on the channel on how to draft a basic body, so you can check that out. So you will need your basic bodice without the dart, and we're going to be modifying this pattern to create the strapless bodice. So the first thing we want to do now is to place the waist dart. So to place the waist dart, you will need your nipple to nipple measurement, and whatever you have, you will divide that into two. So with the measurement I'm working with, I have 7 inches. Dividing that into 2, and we have 3.5 inches. But if you are working directly on your fabric, you will need to add half an inch seam allowance to this measurement. So because I'm working on the pattern paper and I will cut on the pattern paper before cutting on the fabric, so that is why I'm marking the exact measurement that I have. So I just mark 3.5 inches now, and you will also need to mark that on the waistline and square up a line. So once you square up that line, the first thing you want to do is to come down by 3/4 inch from your bust point. This is our bust point now. So you come down by 3/4 inch, and the reason for coming down by 3/4 inch is to create an ease around the bust area. So once you've come down by 3/4 inch, then we want to input the dart intake on the bust, under the bust and on the waistline. So I'll be using 1.5 inch. That means I will mark 0.75 at both sides. Then I will mark the same on the waistline. So you can input between 1.5 inch to 2 inches depending on the size of your bust. So there is a rule that the larger the bust, the larger the dart intake. So if your bust is large, that means you will need more dart intake in order to create the curve that will accommodate the bust. So I input 1.5 inch here, 1.5 inch here. So once you've done that, then I will connect this point together. So now that we've placed the waist dart, so we want to find the radius of the bust in order to create the second dart, because we're going to be needing 2 darts for this pattern. So whatever you have, the distance between your bust line and your under bust line, that will be the radius. So here I have 3.5 inches, and I'm going to mark 3.5 inches round like this. So as you can see, I've marked round 3.5 inches. And once you've done that, you come to your shoulder slope, and then you find the middle point of your shoulder slope. And from that middle point, you draw a line down to your bust point. So you draw a line down to your bust point like this, and this line will be the guide for us. So now we want to input the dart intake on this line. This is our mid shoulder line. So you will input the dart intake there. So you can input whatever you have, exactly the same thing you measured here, you will input it here, because like I've said earlier, that the size of the bust will determine the amount of the dart you will input on your pattern. So I'll be inputting 1.5 inch here also, and that means I will have 0.75 at both sides. Then I will square that to the bust point. So you can see what we have here. Then another thing is that if you don't want your strapless bodice to be as low as this, you can go up, you can add 1 inch to this line. So just like this, you can add 1 inch, and from that 1 inch you will just connect it. So you can see the way I'm marking it, you just mark it down. That is if you don't want your own to be as low as exactly what you have on your radius. And then from there now you will connect that to the armhole, and that is what we're going to be working on. So we're going to be working on this new line, but it's still the same thing. If you are happy with your own, work exactly with what you have here. But if you don't want it to be too low, then you go up by 1 inch or half an inch, depending on what you want. And then you just connect that line. So just connect it like this. And then we're going to be connecting this to the under the arm. So I will do both for you. So let's first of all do this one. So if you are connecting this one, you can use your free hand or you can use your French cuff to do that. So just place your French cuff like this, and then you connect it. So you can see what we have. Then you smoothen that. So like this. And also if you're working on this second, that means you will also connect that from here down to the under the arm. So you can see it's still the same thing. So once you have this now, then you create the neckline. So the neckline, you can see that with what I have here, I've created a sweetheart neckline already. So I'm just going to smoothen that. And also if you're working on this on the exact radius, all you will just need to do is just to connect it and create the sweetheart neckline. So just like this, and then you smoothen that also. So depending on which one you are working with. So now we want to create the side seam, and to create the side seam we're going to be working on the upper chest line. So whatever you have on the upper chest line, that is what you will have on the bust line. So let's start from the upper chest line. So you divide your bust measurement by 4. So the bust I'm working with divided by 4 is 9.25. So I'll mark 9.25 here. And then the dart intake that we input here, we're going to be adding that to this mark. So I will add 1.5 inch. And this is what I will also mark at the bust line. So I will input 9.25 and 1.5 inch. Then at the waistline, you divide your waist measurement by 4. So the waist I'm working with now is 7.5. So I will mark 7.5, and the dart intake, you will need to add it back. So I'm adding 1.5 inch back. So as you can see what I have here, then I will first of all connect that before we add our seam allowance. So this is what you will have, and once you have this, then we're going to be adding our seam allowance to the side. And to add the seam allowance, you can add between 0.5 or 1 inch. You don't need to add too much allowance to it. So I'm just going to add 1 inch to this pattern. So like this. And also at the hem line, I will add joining allowance or the hem line allowance. So half an inch should be enough for that, or 3/4 inch. So you add it to it. And you can also add up to 1 inch. So I added 0.75 here. And then you will also need to add your seam allowance round the neckline and through to the under the arm. So just like this. Then I will just square up the dart to my new neckline. So I hope you understand. So if you are using this one, this is where you will stop. But if you don't want it to be too low, you go up by between 0.5 or 1 inch. And then you just square up. You continue with that same dart leg. So you just square it up. So now that we have through with the front, so let's drag the back. So to drag the back bodies for the strapless top, all you will need to do is just to draft out your basic back bodies. Exactly what I have here. This is the basic back bodies, and this is the exact measurement without the seam allowance. And I've also placed the dart, and I've added the dart value that I use. I've added it to this line. So this is just the exact measurement without the seam allowance. And as you can see the seam allowance here. So all you will need to do now is that you can cut from here straight down to this point for your back, or if you want it lower, you can go down by half an inch, 1 inch, and up to 2 inches depending on how you want it. So I will go down by 1 inch here. So you can see from the center back, you mark 1 inch. But if you are happy to have it like this, that is fine. So I've marked 1 inch. Then I'm just going to connect this 1 inch straight to the under the arm. So I will use the curved part of the ruler. So just like this. Then I'm going to extend the dart line. So you just extend it to that neckline. So just like this. And once you've done this, I will also extend that to the seam allowance. Then I'm going to add the seam allowance, which is 1 inch, exactly the same thing that you added to the front. That is what you will add. So 1 inch now. And then to the hem line, I added 3/4 inch to the front. So I will also add it to the back. So that is the hem line allowance or the joining allowance, depending on what you are doing with the strapless bodies. Then you will also need to add your 1/2 inch seam allowance to the neckline. And I will cut this out. So I've cut out the back and I will also cut out the front. So I've cut out both the front and the back, and this is what the side will look like. So you make sure that you have the same thing at the side so you can see what it will look like. So now that we've cut it out, we're going to be separating these panels. And before you do that, at this part you will need to blend all this sharp end. So you can see here around the bust, you blend it, you create a kind of curve because our bust is not point. So, and also you blend it around here. So you blend it here, you blend it here. So just like this. So I've cut out the dart, as you can see. Then I'll go ahead now and cut on the fabric so that you can see the final look of it. So on the fabric, we're going to be adding seam allowance to this dart line and also to this dart line. We have added the seam allowance around the other part, so we just have to add it to the dart line. So I will cut on the fabric now, then I will show you how it looks like. So guys, I've cut it out on the fabric, as you can see it, and I added seam allowance to the dart line. So don't forget to add it on the fabric so that you don't get short of fabric. So before we start sewing, we're going to be placing some notches to this pattern. So you will just use, this is our under bust line, so you will place a notch there, and that will serve as a guide for us. So you place a notch at the under bust line and on the bust line. So you place 2 notches to the front. So I will do the same thing to this panel also. So you place a notch at the under bust line and on the bust line, and this will serve as a guide for us when we want to connect the two together. And also I cut out the lining exactly the same way, so you can see the lining. This is the main fabric. So when you want to sew, you make sure that you assemble it and the 2 notches matches together. So you can see. So you will just place you pin it down. Then I will also pin this down like that, and then you sew from the, and then you join the 2 together. You do the same thing to the lining and also to the back. What we need to do is just to join it. You join it together and you do this lining separately. So I will go to the sewing machine now and join it, and I will show you what next. So I've joined it, as you can see it, and I've done the same to the lining. So the next thing we want to do is to join the lining to the main fabric. So you place the right side facing each other. So I will do the same to the back. Like this. Then we go ahead and join the 2 at the neckline from the side through to this point and to the other side. And for the back, you will join it at the neckline and also at the center back, which is the zip area. So I will do that and I will show you what next. So I've turned it with the lining. As you can see, this is the wrong side, and I've done the same for the back. So what we're going to do next is to join the two together at the side seam. So this will go with this side and this will go with this side. So we want to have a neat finishing, and to do that, what we're going to do is that we're going to be placing, so you can see this is what it will look like after sewing it. So you place it on each other like this, so you can pin it down. So I'll pin it down. And then the other side, you place it and pin it down. So you are not pinning the lining together with it. So like this. So we're going to be using our seam allowance to join it together at the side seam, and we're going to be sewing. You can see the fabric separately. So you sew with your seam allowance, you sew from here through to here, and at this end, which is the under the arm, so you make sure that the two are lined, and then you continue sewing with your seam allowance through to the lining. So I hope you understand this. So you tack it together, lining separately and the fabric separately. Then you will use your seam allowance to join it at the side separately. So you sew from here through to the under the arm and to the lining. So I will do that and I will show you what next. So guys, I've joined everything together just like I explained earlier, and this is what we have at the right side. You can see how neat it is. So you can see the wrong side also. So you can see it's very neat. So all you need to do now is to finish these raw edges, and if you're attaching it to a peplum or gown, so you just use your hem-line allowance, the one we added, you use it to join it together. But if you want to wear this as a top, that means you're going to be turning it like this. So you turn it like this, and then at the hem-line you will join everything round to this side. So you will leave about 2 inches or thereabout, and from that 2 inches you will pull everything out. That is what I will do. So I will go ahead now and join this at the hem line using the seam allowance through to this side. I will leave like 2 inches, and I'm going to turn it up through that 2 inches. So I will show you how it looks like. So guys, I've joined it at the hem line, and this is what we have. Can you see it? Can you see how neat? So you can see the inside and the outside. So to finish up with this opening, so you can just use your needle and thread to hem this part. So make sure that the thread is not obvious at the right side. So you can rock this with skirts, or if you want to add your peplum to it, you don't need to finish the hem line just like this. And once you have this, then you go ahead and fix your invisible zipper. So guys, we've come to the end of this tutorial today. I hope you enjoy watching this video, and I hope you find it helpful. If you find it helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave your comment, and if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, kindly do so, and don't forget to put on the notification bell so you get notified anytime I upload a new video. Till I see you in my next video, have a wonderful day. Bye.